What's up everyone, welcome to episode 9 of Only for the Strong. Today's guest is a bodybuilding competitor and real estate agent based in Wellington, Rinaldo Strydom. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you doing?
Awesome, I'm great. So to start, why don't you just get into a bit of your upbringing and also how you then got into training and competing?
So I grew up in New Plymouth, or I was born in South Africa, and then I moved to New Plymouth, and then went through New Plymouth Boys High School, finished there, and then came to Wellington. In terms of what it relates to training, I didn't do any types of bodybuilding or stuff. I played hockey throughout high school, and then when I came to university, I didn't really want to keep playing, so I just started going to the gym. As I think any young guy that goes to university does. And then I got into powerlifting to start with. So I did 2 years of powerlifting competing. And then after that, did one bodybuilding show and just loved it and have been doing that ever since.
How many times have you competed and what do the competitions sort of look like and felt like for you?
So I've done 3 bodybuilding shows now. So I did 2 shows at Palmy, so the Tournament of Champions, and then last year I did Wellington Champs, which was the IFBB Pro card for Classic, which is my division. So I did that last year. So 3 shows in total for bodybuilding.
What did those experiences look like? Like, was the first show very different from the second show? Did you love both? Did you hate one?
So the first show was real fun because it was the first time that, you kind of get to that low body fat percentage and you end up seeing things and experiencing things that you never would have experienced. I think out of all the shows, that was definitely the most interesting one, because especially when you get down to like your 6%, 5% body fat and you're starting to see veins and striations and things all over your body, it was really, really exciting. But I think the one that I found the most enjoyable was probably last year's, because it was the first time that I had a big proper off season where we put on a lot of weight and then came in. To be honest, I think last year's show was probably the first time I actually looked like a bodybuilder. The first time I was just a skinny guy on stage. That's really all I was.
Do you have someone to help you, or do you sort of do your training and diet yourself?
So for the first 2 shows, I had my best mate, Taylor, who's a PT. He helped me through my first 2 shows, and then I signed on with a guy called Luke Thompson, who's a bodybuilding coach up in Auckland. And then he basically ran my whole off season and then my prep and everything from there. And he's basically someone that I'm working with now as well, moving forward.
Cool. So with you, because you are quite into your training and competing, I wanted to touch on sort of a nitty-gritty training question. And I'm not sure if you've seen it in your circles, but there is quite a constant debate on resistance training and bodybuilding and which training style is more optimal. And usually it goes high intensity, low volume, more weight versus high volume, short rest times and chasing the pump, for example. Do you have a particular training style you stick to? And does this vary from time to time?
It does vary, but it mainly varies when you are basically in prep versus out of prep. So when you're in your off season, you have more weight, you have more food, so you really try and push a bit heavier movement, so between that 6 to 8 reps. And it's really because, as you know, when you're pushing heavier weights is when you're building that dense kind of big muscle. That cheesy saying, big muscles move big weights kind of thing. So in the off season, it's more that lower volume, big movements. And then as you go into your prep and your food starts getting lower and you want to bring a bit more detailing to your muscles, you start moving towards more volume training, which then brings around more veins, more kind of thin lines throughout your muscles.
Do you think you enjoy the process of off-season or prep more?
To be honest, I don't like prep at all. I hate it. I think I love the off-season because you get to do big movements, you get to eat a lot of food. For me, off-season all the way. Prep, I'm not a fan of prep when it's cardio and it's low food, and it just sucks, man.
What intrinsically drives you during prep then?
It's that kind of pressure you put on yourself, because I think that the ultimate thing that's in the back of your mind is you're about to step on stage with nothing but these underwear on you, and you're about to stand in front of however many people looking at you, which shouldn't be the driving factor for the shot for the ultimate goal, but it is the kind of driving factor, is the fact you're about to step on stage, so you don't want to look like shit, to be honest.
Do you feel like the process would be less enjoyable if you only did like just off season or just prep, like if there wasn't sort of that change after like a 3-month period or whatever it is?
Yeah, because ultimately I think if you didn't have one or the other, then it wouldn't be as enjoyable, because ultimately for me, the reason the off season is so important is because I know that it's going to help when you start your prep. So for me, that's why I need to have a big off season. I need to put on a good amount of weight, a good amount of size, so that then when prep comes, you actually have more muscle tissue to show.
Like there's progress and improvement.
Yeah, like you need one for the other. Like you need the off season for the prep, but you also need the prep for the off season, because otherwise all you're doing is just putting on weight for no reason.
Yeah, for sure. So with bodybuilding, there comes a stigma how it can be potentially detrimental to your health. Obviously, the excessive food consumption, constant training, and also the PED side of the sport. Is the health side of things something you consciously think about? If so, what do you do to combat the toll it takes on you?
Yeah, it's definitely, it does. And it's not just the physical health, but it's also the mental health, because it's both sides of it. I think for me, what I kind of learned about it is that realistically, any sport you choose, there's unhealthy side effects to it. I mean, if I was a boxer, it would be, the damage to my brain and my shoulder joints. If I was a swimmer, it's the damage to your shoulder joints and potentially your hip joints. And so I just kind of clicked that any sport that you really try to do to a high level, there will be health repercussions. And it's ultimately a thing that what's more important. And to me, being a competitive bodybuilder is more important than my health at that point, but also not putting myself at a detriment long term. So making sure that you're eating the right food. When you're dieting, you're actually not doing more than 2 shows a year, so that you give your body time to recover. And when it comes to the PED side of things, for the people that are on PEDs, it's actually doing them safely and having someone managing it, rather than just putting whatever you want in your body and then hoping for the best.
Do you feel like, because this is something I kind of found, is when you get into the sport as a young man or woman, there's often a lot of taboo subjects and just like miseducation. And did you find it hard as you got into the sport to kind of find your feet?
Yeah. To be honest, I think bodybuilding as a whole can be a very toxic environment. As a whole, because everyone's very focused on how they look and their appearance. So for me, I kind of just found my feet in the sense that not really buying into a lot of the culture side of things. I tend to, train by myself. I don't do a lot of the kind of content stuff anymore. I tried and I didn't enjoy it. So I found my feet kind of finding why I compete, sticking to that, and then not involving myself with the whole community that's toxic about it.
Have you come across, it sounds like maybe your coach you have is one, but have you come across a few people that have been integral in what you're doing and you find you gel with?
100%. I found, to be honest, I think I've found a lot more of the older competitors that have been around, 10 plus years. I relate a lot more to them than I do to the younger competitors, because it's almost like a shift, because they were competing before social media was such a big thing. So they view it a little bit differently than the guys that, it's all they kind of think about, all they do. They really place a big personal image on their competing rather than just seeing it as a sport.
Yeah, I did an interview yesterday with, I'm not sure if you know Georgia Patchin. She's a 22-year-old and she competes in figure. And she did really well last year, but we were kind of talking about that, how people can get lost in it.
Yeah.
especially when you're immersed in it, and we all know those people, and there's nothing wrong with it. We all know those people who just, that's all they talk about, that's all they know, and they're not even really at a high level, which is, it's great because they're passionate, but then most of us have other things in our life, and like I was explaining to Georgia, someone like me, like I bombed out of uni, I cut off a lot of friendships for no reason, I didn't really, like I stayed away from my family, and it was all to do bodybuilding, and I feel like I could have done it a bit differently and done better anyway. So it feels like talking to you, you're almost a little bit of the head of the curve where someone like me was, which is great. And that leads on to the next question that I was going to ask you is, do you struggle at all with managing training, eating, and competing with your personal life? Does it impact your career? Have you improved at balancing these aspects over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think out of all the sports that I've done, this has definitely been the biggest toll in that sense. I mean, I've lost friendships over it, but it also does impact if you have someone that you're in a relationship with, it does impact them as well, because ultimately it's not a very healthy sight for people that are close to you, even your relationship with your family, your parents, your sisters, your family, because they see you put on this a huge amount of weight and then lose it 6 months later to the point where your face is all indented. So it's not a very healthy sight for them to see. So in that aspect, where I've found my balance is just giving constant reassurance to the people that are close to me, saying, I know what I'm doing, I know what I've signed up for, and I am doing this for a short period of time, and I know when I'll stop. But when it gets to time management, it's such a hard thing, because you have, on one hand, you want to spend time with people, you want to have your leisure time, but also you have this drive where you're like, if I don't train hard, if I don't do this, then I'm not going to be good. And I've found the best way to balance it is just really sticking to kind of tight timelines when I'm in the gym. So, you know, the hour and a half that I am in the gym, it's full intensity, not on my phone, not talking to people, getting it done, and then moving out, not spending 4 hours there. But yeah, if I didn't do that, it's just, there's no way you're going to manage it.
Do your family get the whole process of training and growing and then dieting down and competing, or no?
My mum does, because my mum was involved. She was a trainer for 20 plus years, so she does, but no one else really does. And so I kind of pick my battles. Sometimes, you know, you just choose who you talk about bodybuilding to, and my mum's definitely the person I would. But for example, my sisters or extended family, I tend to not really bring it up. I just let them. Yeah, if they bring it up and ask me questions, I'll answer it. But I tend to not talk to them about it.
Yeah, nice. Is there a long-term goal with competing and training for you? Do you see yourself continuing to walk down that path, or does your career take priority and you think maybe you put all your chips into that as you get older?
So for me, I kind of have an exit strategy. I think I definitely, and not in a cocky sense, but I definitely think that I've got the potential, the ability, if I work hard enough, to become a pro. But there's no timeline on that. So for me, it's either whichever one comes first. If I get pro before I'm 35, then I'll exit. If I turn 35 and I'm not a pro, then I'll exit. And the way I see it is, you know, I work in real estate, and then I also work with Westpac and in the banking industry. So for me, it's a point of, right now there's career progression, but I think realistically there's not a lot of career progression you do in your early to late 20s. It's more usually from your 30s onwards that you start making bigger jumps in terms of management positions or higher responsibility positions or more properties that you're managing and things like that. So I decided it's best to make that push for bodybuilding now, and then, you know, once the career progression things start really kicking in, then I'll step back from competing.
Do you find yourself wrestling with like the pull between your current sort of career and bodybuilding, or one's clearly got like your priority?
Yeah. Last year I tried to manage both, and both suffered. So I have made the conscious decision where I decided, look, I'm going to put my career on the back burner, still work, still do what I need to do, but I'm putting that on the back burner and really pushing bodybuilding as hard as I can now. Putting, to an extent, even my savings, so not saving as much, but putting more into coaches and nutritionists and all those things, putting more money into that so that I can get there, reach a goal that I want to reach, and then put that on the back burner and put career first.
Because how old are you, sorry, again, bro? I think you're a couple of years younger than me.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah, so I'm 26, and I think actually, because I went to New Plymouth Boys too. I'm not sure if you... Do you recognise me?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and you must know my brother too.
Yeah, because me and him are the same year.
Yeah, my brother... I actually had my wedding, 10 days ago, and my brother and me were randomly talking about... And this is so embarrassing, but I don't know if you remember, but I used to rep a fitness clothing brand, and I remember one time, the school prefects, which we got to get up during assemblies for a little stint to give notices or whatever, and I used my stint. I got up in front of the whole school and I tried to start selling these gym stringers off to everyone.
Oh no.
And I just thought, at the time, I don't know how I was so confident to do that, because at the time, I'm confident now, but I would not do anything like that now. So yeah, I don't know, don't judge me on my past, I'm a bit more matured, but
we've all done
it. What I was saying is I feel like I'm kind of a little bit ahead of the path you are on or taking, and to be honest, I didn't really have any genetic potential to do really well in the sport, but and at the time I wrestled with the idea of should I be doing this, should I not be doing this, and at the end of the day, what I would say to you or anyone on that path is just that even if you don't end up reaching the goal on that path, the tools and the skills you learn along the way, all you have to do is take those and apply them in another arena, and you'll run people over, even me now, and not to toot my own horn, but the skills and abilities and tools I developed from those times training and maybe being a bit isolated and maybe sacrificing a bit more than I should have, I learnt things that now put me above other people in my sector. And so it's not really a lose scenario, it's not a lose-lose scenario at all. If anything, it's a win-win. So I would just encourage you, if that's what you feel you want to do, keep sticking to it, because it's either going to pan out exactly how you want, you achieve exactly what you want, or your path might just be corrected a bit and you end up achieving something just as good, It's never a waste.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, it's never a waste. That's all I'd say, bro. There's, you're kind of developing the muscle of work ethic and discipline, and again, you take those into other arenas where people aren't near as disciplined or don't work as hard at it. You end up, like I said, running people over. So now I've just got some quick fire questions to sort of start wrapping up, and we'll just fire through them. But the first one is, what would your last meal be if you were on death row?
Lasagna. Favorite food.
Nice.
Hands down.
What about dessert?
Oh, yeah, sticky date pudding. You can't beat a sticky date pudding.
Yeah. A couple of people have actually said that, and I've asked that too, which is interesting. It is mean if it's done well.
Yeah, unbeaten.
One song to train to for the rest of your life.
Conquer by Sweat It.
Nice. In your opinion, across all sports, the greatest athlete of all time?
Oh, Michael Jordan. Yeah, I don't think you can beat him.
Favorite movie of all time?
Yeah, it would either be Wolf of Wall Street or Southpaw. I'm leaning more towards Southpaw.
Yeah, I feel just inspiration-wise.
Yeah, otherwise it's just too cheesy.
I'm thinking of all the scenes of Wolf of Wall Street. I'm like, maybe not. The directing's great, but it's all good. Your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration currently would probably be, as a lot of gym goers, probably be Chris Bumstead. Big fan of him. I have what was it, sorry?
You go, you're good.
It's real cheesy, but I've got this really big poster of Chris Bumstead in my house that I look at every day. And I think if anyone else was to walk into the house and see that, you're very confused.
Is the classic division kind of where you see yourself permanently, or you wouldn't be opposed to end up going into bodybuilding, or?
No, classic. I think for my height, because I'm 6'3", for me to go to open, I would have to be touching like 160, 150 kilos, and that's
That's
no.
a lot. Yeah, fair enough. And then lastly, one piece of advice you would give your 10-year-old self.
Don't try so hard. It's probably the biggest thing. I think we tend to try really, really hard instead of just having a go and having fun.
Nice. Before I finish up, is there anyone or anything you'd like to plug or thank or?
Yeah, I would actually just want to give a big shout out to Taylor and Tim, who they started a gym here in Wellington called the Fitness Portal. And I think, in my opinion, I've gone to quite a few gyms. I think, in my opinion, they're reshaping the whole training kind of vibe here in New Zealand. I know down south they've got some good gyms, but just want to give a big shout out. They're actually opening a new gym in Auckland, and I, to be honest, I think they're going to be one of the best gyms in New Zealand within the next 2 or 3 years. So yeah, even if you're around, go and jump in one of their gyms.
Nice. Flick me. I think I know which gym you're talking about. You should flick me a link because, like, you kind of say that. Oh, I think the gym scene is actually pretty subpar in New Zealand, eh?
Yeah.
So
I'll send you their socials so you can have a look. I just think they're so different to any of the other gyms here.
Yeah, mean. So for anyone who may want to get in touch with Rinaldo, I'll put his contact details in the description below. Obviously, works in real estate and banking in Wellington, so anything down that avenue, or just if you liked his response on any questions, feel free to get in touch. But mate, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you jumping on, and I'll have to get you back on at some stage in the near future.
Yeah, man, for sure. No, it was real good. I'm keen on the next one.
Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And for all things Unbroken Performance and myself, hit the links in the description below.